Welcome to the Global Gridiron by way of Good Advice Givers, your go-to podcast for everything NFL, including what's happening when American football hits international soil. I'm your host, John, and my amazing co-host, Sarah, is with me.
Thanks, John. Hey, everyone. Today's episode is a special one. We're diving into the recent Chicago Bears versus Jacksonville Jaguars game that took place in London. It was a wild ride, packed stadium, roaring fans, and a whole lot of interesting reactions from across the pond. We're going to break down the game, compare the fan experience in London to that in the States, and discuss how this international NFL event affects the sport overall.
Absolutely, Sarah. This year's London game was massive, and both teams really delivered. I mean, what a game! Let's start with a quick recap for those who missed it. The Chicago Bears took on the Jacksonville Jaguars at Wembley Stadium, and it did not disappoint. The Jaguars, who are often considered London's adopted team because of how many times they played there, came out strong. But, as we know, the Bears have that solid defense.
Exactly, John. The Bears' defense was rock solid, as always. They put real pressure on the Jaguars' quarterback, forcing a couple of turnovers that kept them in the game, despite some shaky moments from their own offense. The Jaguars, though, were hungry for a win. Their offense kept pushing back with some huge plays, especially from their running game. The back and forth was thrilling to watch, and I've got to say, that energy from the London crowd was palpable.
Yeah, you're right. The crowd was into it from the very start. Even though a lot of people were there just to enjoy the spectacle, not necessarily because they were diehard Bears or Jags fans. Londoners have such an interesting approach to NFL games. It feels like more of a festival than the intense, sometimes hostile energy you might get from American crowds. Don't get me wrong, I love how passionate American fans are. But in London, it's more about appreciating the show. It felt more like they were at a celebration of American football.
Oh, absolutely. It's that novelty factor, isn't it? Football, or American football as they call it, is still growing over there. So the London fans don't have the same deep-rooted allegiances that you'd see in Chicago or Jacksonville. They're there for the experience. Wembley was packed, but the vibe was different. More casual, but in a good way. You didn't get that feeling of intense rivalry like you would at Soldier Field when the Bears are hosting the Packers, for example.
And the jerseys. I love seeing so many different teams represented in the stands. I saw people in Patriots, Steelers, even Dolphins jerseys. I think that shows how much NFL culture has been spreading overseas. Fans in London don't necessarily have a single team yet. They're still exploring the sport and the teams.
Exactly. And it makes sense because the NFL is still building its fan base in the UK. They don't have the long-standing traditions like we do. But what they do have is curiosity and excitement, and you could see that. But speaking of the game itself, what did you think of the Bears' offense? Because I gotta be honest, they were a bit inconsistent.
Yeah, that was the biggest issue for the Bears. Their defense kept them alive, but the offense struggled to find rhythm. They had a couple of big plays, but their red zone efficiency was poor. You could see the frustration on the sidelines. Quarterback play was decent, but not great. The offensive line gave up too much pressure, and the Jaguars capitalized on that. And as you mentioned, their running game just couldn't get going.
Definitely. The Jaguars' defensive line was getting into the backfield too easily, and that really limited what the Bears could do. Meanwhile, Jacksonville's running game was the complete opposite. Their back was running through defenders like it was nothing. That's what really stood out to me, how physical the Jaguars were on offense. It's almost like the London atmosphere gave them a bit of extra juice.
It's funny you mentioned that, Sarah, because I felt like the Jaguars were playing with a home field advantage, which is weird since it's supposed to be neutral ground. But because they've played in London so many times, they've got this connection with the fans there. There were Jaguars banners all over Wembley, and you could hear pockets of Jaguars chants, which isn't something you typically see from teams overseas.
I noticed that too. It felt like they were feeding off that energy. Maybe it's because they've had more opportunities to adapt to playing internationally. This game wasn't just another away game for them. It was like a second home. That's a big contrast to the Bears, who aren't used to the London scene. They looked a little out of sync at times, and I wonder if traveling that far had something to do with it.
Travel definitely affects the game. The time zone difference, the different field conditions, it all plays a part. The Bears had to fly over from Chicago, adjust to a whole new environment, and then play a high-stakes game. Jacksonville, on the other hand, seemed comfortable from the get-go. They knew what to expect, and I think that showed in their performance. But I also think it's interesting how the game of football itself feels different when played in another country.
That's such a good point. The essence of the sport feels slightly different, right? It's still the same game, same rules, same strategy, but playing it in another country changes the whole dynamic. The intensity is there, but the atmosphere is more lighthearted. I think because the fans in London are still learning the game, they appreciate different moments. You don't hear as much booing or jeering like you do in the States when something doesn't go their team's way.
Exactly. There's less pressure from the crowd, which might help the players feel more at ease, especially for the Jaguars, who are more familiar with playing there. But it's also a great opportunity to grow the sport globally. London fans seem to focus more on the spectacle of the game, the big hits, the flashy plays, the celebrations. It's almost like they're just there for a good time, rather than living and dying with every play like we do back home.
And that's part of the appeal, right? Expanding the NFL internationally is about creating these global events where the sport becomes an experience, not just a game. London is just one of the stops. There's talk about expanding to Germany and other parts of Europe, too. Do you think we'll ever see a permanent NFL team in London?
It's tough to say. There are certainly logistical challenges, but the fan base is growing, and the NFL is really invested in building it. The question is whether the players would want to be based in London full-time. Traveling back and forth would be a nightmare, and the time zone difference would be brutal for both the team and their opponents. But with enough fan support, it's possible. The NFL is always looking to expand its market.
Yeah, the logistics are tricky, but the potential is there. If you think about it, we've already seen how successful these games can be in London. The fan turnout is huge, and the atmosphere is electric. The more the NFL invests in these international games, the more it opens up opportunities for growth. And honestly, seeing the diversity of fans from all over Europe at these games is amazing. It's bringing people together around a sport that's so uniquely American.
It really is. It's like exporting a piece of American culture, but seeing how it's interpreted differently abroad. London is embracing it in their own way. The crowds may not be as rowdy as a home crowd in Chicago or Jacksonville, but they bring their own flavor to the game. And I think that's great for the sport. The more people who fall in love with the game, the better.
Absolutely. And after this game, I can see why the NFL keeps coming back to London. It's not just about the teams or the final score. It's about the experience of sharing football with a global audience. The Bears vs. Jaguars game might not go down in history as a classic, but it was certainly a memorable event for everyone who attended. And who knows? Maybe one day we'll be talking about a Super Bowl in London.
Now, that would be something. Imagine the Super Bowl on international soil. I'm all for it. But for now, we'll just have to settle for these thrilling regular season games across the pond.
Well, that wraps up today's episode. We hope you enjoyed our breakdown of the Bears vs. Jaguars game in London. If you haven't seen it yet, be sure to catch the highlights and witness the incredible atmosphere for yourself. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Global Gridiron by way of Good Advice Givers.
Yeah! Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. We'll catch you next time.
Well, that wraps up today's episode. We hope you enjoyed our breakdown of the Bears vs. Jaguars game in London. If you haven't seen it yet, be sure to catch the highlights and witness the incredible atmosphere for yourself. It's always exciting to see how football is evolving on an international stage.
Absolutely. And before we go, we've got a favor to ask. If you're enjoying the Global Gridiron, make sure you hit that follow button on your favorite podcast platform. It helps us keep bringing you the best NFL content, whether it's games at home or abroad.
And don't forget to download today's episode so you can listen on the go. Whether you're commuting, working out, or just relaxing, take us with you. And if you love what you hear, be sure to leave us a review. It really helps us out and spreads the word about our show.
That's right. You can also follow us on social media for behind-the-scenes updates, special guests, and more. Find us on all podcast outlets at Good Advice Giver, join the conversation, and let us know what you thought about the game.
We'll catch you next time with more NFL coverage from around the globe. Thanks for tuning in.
And remember, whether you're watching in Chicago, Jacksonville, London, or anywhere else, football is global. See you soon.
Today is your lucky day. Today is the day that our $3 website works for you, paying you directly to your PayPal daily. Imagine $3 ongoing continuous payments to your PayPal account. Imagine falling asleep and waking up to $300 in your PayPal account. How would this make you feel? How could this help you? What bills could you pay? What kind of fun could you have? What does that retirement look like now? All for a one-time payment of $3. This website is DFY done for you, fully built and completely hosted, and never stops collecting payments for you. You have spent $3 on coffee on a regular, but that coffee won't help you create multiple streams of income. Click the link below.